mixtape stories, creating beautiful fiction in a disappointing timeline.
Terminal rent-a-car, just a moment. Terminal rent-a-car, just a moment. Terminal rent-a-car, just a moment.
It was a banner day over at Terminal Rent-A-Car. The reservation office overbooked as usual, and customers who were supposed to return their vehicles were running late. And just to add to the insanity, our fearless leader Ron had absconded with one of the two nice cars we had on the lot, with the girlfriend of one of the motor pool guys. So I was handed the helm to this sinking ship. South by Southwest brought in a lot of business, and Terminal was there for those customers who couldn't afford the fancy pants car rental outfits like Enterprise and Hertz. We catered to anyone whose credit card hadn't maxed out yet, no matter whose credit card it actually belonged to. Yes, sir, I would also be upset if my kid found a crack pipe in the back seat. I'll be sure to tell the motor pool guys to be more thorough. Eventually, the cars arrived, and we survived yet another day. I was getting ready to close down for the evening, and was just beginning to relax when I got a call from the reservation office. Another customer's car broke down. Of course it did. I explained that all of the guys in a motor pool left for the evening, but this Dr. Kohl person was stranded out by some farm out in Lockhart. Fine, tell this doctor whoever, tell him I'll get there as soon as I can. I grabbed the road atlas out of my backpack and took the other decent car hidden in the back lot, a Ford Mustang. Based on the directions given to me third hand, I guesstimated the location of the barn where Dr. Kohl was stranded. It was a few miles past Lockhart, deep into Chupacabra territory. Now, I'm not saying that I actually believe in Chupacabras, but Stacy got me into this show called The X-Files, and a few days ago there was this episode featuring a Chupacabra, and as I said, I don't believe in any of that, but it was a full moon outside. God, it was dark out in brush country. I turned onto a dirt road, drove up an incline, where I reached the crest and saw the barn in the distance that was lit up. Okay, that was unexpected. It was in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere, but I found dozens of cars parked next to the barn, with several people milling about. When I got out, I heard cheering. Inside was a packed audience surrounding a boxing ring encased in plexiglass, where two squat machines on wheels faced off. A banner above the ring said, "The second annual completely unsanctioned South by Southwest Robot Gladiator Competition."
In the blue corner, representing Astro Robotics, all the way from San Diego, California.
California. Ugh. Since moving to Austin a few months ago, I learned that the locals here had a real hate-on for the Californians. It wasn't political. If anything, in that regard, Austinites had more in common with California than they did with the rest of Texas. Rather, it was a fact that the Californians moving here in droves to Austin made everything more expensive.
The master of disaster, the reigning champion, the one and only El Guapo! And in the red corner, born out of the bayous of H-Town and sponsored by Austin's own, the Stubb Foundation. She has a pain in her circuitry, and she wishes to unleash it onto the world. You know her. You love her. Dolores, the Destroyer!
The fight got underway as two menacing robots chased and beat each other up. I thought that South by Southwest was just for music. Apparently, it also involved coked-up vacuum cleaners. Studying the crowd, I had no idea how I was going to find this Dr. Kohl. How did he even call me? It's not like there were any payphones that I could see. And then I saw some woman motion to me. Unsure, I pointed to myself, and the lady nodded emphatically and then held up a cardboard sign with the name scrawled Kohl. Oh. And here I was assuming that Dr. Kohl was a man. Typical, right? I made my way over to her.
Terminal Rent-A-Car?
Yeah, how did you guess?
Your shirt.
Ah, of course. The terminal golf shirt I had to wear. I came as soon as I got the message. My name's Chris.
Pleased to meet you, Chris. I'm Catherine.
I have your replacement vehicle. I apologize about the other car breaking down.
Yes!
I turned to see that Dolores the Destroyer used its hammer to knock Guapo over into its back, exposing its belly.
Take him down, Dolores! Take him down!
The crowd cheered raucously as Dolores extended a circular saw and proceeded to tear into El Guapo until its electronic guts spilled onto the floor. When a spark set off the fire, they called it for Dolores. Dr. Kohl was ecstatic. She rushed over to congratulate Dolores' operator, a very attractive woman in overalls.
Chris, over here.
I waded through the crowd and Dr. Kohl introduced me to Dolores' creator, Tara. Apparently, Dr. Kohl was with that company, the Stubb Foundation, which sponsored Dolores. After the trophy ceremony, Tara, the hot robotician, packed Dolores into her Miata, while I guided Dr. Kohl over to her replacement rental. I told her I'd be staying behind with the Oldsmobile that crapped out on her until the tow truck arrived in the morning. She scoffed and insisted on giving me a ride back into town.
Thanks for coming out all this way to switch me out. You didn't have to. Tara would have driven me home.
Oh, it's no biggie, Doc. I wanted to make sure you were taken care of. By the way, I noticed there wasn't a payphone in the barn.
Yeah? That would be weird if there was one, wouldn't you say?
True. So, how did you call the reservation office?
My cell phone.
She pulled out a device that looked like the ones that Mulder and Scully had. I'd seen a few people use them at the airport. But they really stood out. Wow, you must be rich.
If I was rich, I wouldn't be renting from your company. No offense. After my jalopy kicked the bucket. It's a company phone.
The Stubb Foundation? She nodded. I initially thought that they were the barbecue restaurant downtown, but Dr. Kohl didn't look like she was in the restaurant business. So, what is it y'all do over the Stubb Foundation? Robotics?
Nah, Tara is one of the associates at the company, and she does robotics in her spare time. Our business model's a little hard to articulate.
Fair enough. To be honest, if they were in tech, even if she did explain what they did, I still wouldn't have a clue. On our drive back to town, we chatted. It turns out that Dr. Kohl and her husband are the founders of the Stubb Foundation, which they launched last month and moved into a restaurant on Austin's South Side. When she told me that it was located on Barton Springs Boulevard, I told her about all of the cool mountain biking trails nearby that I recently trekked. The conversation wound its way around to our respective degrees. Her PhD in mathematics, wow, and my piddly BA in philosophy. When there was a lull, Dr. Kohl fiddled with the stereo and tuned it to a radio station we both liked. God, I love this song! I swayed and started singing along as she drove. It took me back to high school when I was surrounded by friends all singing together. A slight pang of longing for simpler times. At some point I realized that I was singing in front of a customer. Sorry about that.
Not at all. I love The Cure.
That album, Disintegration, it takes me back, you know?
It takes you back, huh?
Yeah, like that and so many others. It feels like better times, like when things are easy and simple. Dr. Kohl considered that a moment, and then she turned to me.
Let me ask you something, and please be honest. Do you like it over at Terminal?
Oh shit, was that out loud?
I would hate working there too. I can't believe they expected you to wait by the Oldsmobile in the middle of nowhere.
Well, thank you for offering to take me back to my house.
Oh my God, of course. Nobody should deal with that kind of job. Hey, how would you like to join us instead?
My eyes widened. Did she just... Are you offering me a job?
I think I am.
For a moment, I felt exhilarated. Someone had just recruited me. A tech company wanted to hire me. And then my heart sank. Hey, Dr. Kohl, listen, I really appreciate that offer. I do. But I gotta be honest with you. I don't know computers, like, at all. Dr. Kohl bit her lip. Yeah, I just figured I shot myself in the foot. Then she canted slightly.
Well, the stars must have aligned, Chris, because it turns out the Stubb Foundation is in dire need of a bike messenger with a philosophy degree.
Are you serious?
You own a bike, right?
I do, but wait, what was I doing adding a but? She was serious. There was an offer, a way out of Terminal. But I didn't want to go from one minimum wage job to another. I needed to be savvy, so I straightened up. Okay, well, how much money are we talking about? Catherine grinned. Thanks for the ride. I'll be there Monday morning at 8 a.m. sharp.
I look forward to it.
Hello?
Hey, Muffin.
Oh, hey, Kitty. What time is it over there?
Oh, sorry, it's an hour later there. The flight went late.
Did Tara win?
She did! And I have more good news. The rental broke down.
That's good news?
Wait for it. The rental broke down, and the car rental guy who brought me a replacement, well, I think he's the one.
Really? And how do you know that?
Because I know these things. Trust me.
I married you, didn't I? Okay, so this guy.
He's a kid, actually. His name is Chris, and he seems to have a sensitivity to music. I noticed it on the drive back.
Kitty, love, I'm a neurologist. I'll be making that determination.
Well, duh, but you should also know that I hired him.
I see. Will he be our mainframe administrator?
Not exactly. He's our new bike messenger.
What, like Puck in the real world?
Yes, Muffin, just like Puck in the real world.
Do we need a bike messenger?
What we need is someone who can make the apparatus work. Bike messenger is just our official reason for hiring him, at least as far as Chris knows, unless the Foundation is in need of someone with a bachelor's in philosophy.
Philosophy? Okay, bike messenger it is. I get back Sunday evening. I'll run the compatibility tests on him first thing Monday morning.
I know I got the address right. 1155 Barton Springs Road, just past the Peter Pan mini golf. But if this was the place, damn. Perched over a cliff atop two concrete stilts, the hexagonal-shaped building looked to be in disrepair. The property was cordoned off by a construction gate. A wooden placard with the word spray painted said, "The Stubb Foundation," which hung on the fence. Okay, so this was the right place. There was only one vehicle in the parking lot, the green Mustang rental. Right next to a boulder was a rickety metal staircase. I locked up my bike and tightened my belt in another loop so my pants wouldn't droop. As I made my way up the creaking staircase, I was struck with a memory from a dream I had last night where I had relapsed. I was drunk trying to pretend that I wasn't while walking up a flight of stairs. I awoke so grateful it was just a dream. Stacy told me to expect a lot more of them. So, yay! The glass door still had the signage from the previous business. Room with a view, bar and grill. I walked inside to the dining hall, past the empty fish tank where a series of beanbags with adjustable tray tables that held laptops. Wires ran across the floor, up the walls, and over the ceiling. The only part not covered in cables were the sliding doors up front, which led to the balcony.
You must be Chris.
I turned around to find a man wearing a golf shirt and chinos. Yes, Chris Lamb. He extended his hand and we shook.
A pleasure to meet you, Chris. I'm Dr. Nate Kohl.
Oh, so you're her... He nodded.
I'm her husband. Said she married me just for my name.
So where's the other Dr. Kohl?
She'll be coming in shortly.
Oh, okay. Well, my bike's downstairs and I'm ready to get started.
We'll get to that later, but I'd like to run some tests first.
Tests?
Don't worry, Chris. You're already hired. I run a battery of tests on all our employees as part of our project.
Okay. Do you need to draw blood?
No, nothing like that. It's a cognitive test gauging galvanic responses.
Like a lie detector?
Not really. It's complicated. But don't worry, it's non-invasive.
Dr. Nate Kohl led me into the back, which had served as a kitchen back when it was a restaurant. The stoves and cooking island were gone. In its place was a giant capsule. It looked like a torpedo tube. And at the far end of the former kitchen was a desktop computer along with a gaggle of chairs and a bank of computer hardware. And then by the computer was a stereo, speakers, and the synthesizer. I took a seat, and Nate proceeded to put on a Speedo swim cap on my head, connected to a bunch of nodes.
Catherine told me you got your BA in philosophy.
Yeah, that's right.
I want to ask you a series of questions, and you answer the first thing that pops into your head.
Shoot. Nate started to ask some basic Philosophy 101 questions, standard Cartesian and Kantian dilemmas, and threw in a few interesting questions about the nature of consciousness. And then he placed headphones over my ears.
Can you hear me?
I nodded.
Good. Let me ask you, what's the first song you remember?
Random question. I thought for a moment and nothing really came to mind. Nate went over to the synthesizer and played Twinkle Little Star. I shrugged. I guess I remember that from childhood.
Or maybe...
Nate then played Mr. Rogers' theme song. Yeah, it's an early song for me, all right. And then I realized something. My mom, she played music all the time. Hell, there was this one. And then I started mumbling. If you leave me now, da-da-da-na-na-na-na-na.
Oh, baby, please don't go.
Yeah, it's, I don't know.
I think it's by Chicago. Hold on.
He ran over to the computer and used the mouse to look up something.
Damn, we don't have the CD in our catalog, but I think I can wing it.
Nate went back to the synthesizer and muddled around until... Yes, that's it, that's the song. He started playing. What do you want me to do, Dr. Cole?
Just listen, and my name's Nate.
He played the song, and I whispered a half-remembered lyrics, and I felt as though I was a kid again. A toddler sitting in my mom's lap, with her caressing my face as I cried. I think a bee stung me. And in the living room, that song was playing. And then my thoughts turned to what a shitty son I'd become. An alcoholic who stole her credit card and put her deeper in the debt. But the chords, they brought me back, again, to that time, before it went all to shit, when I was innocent. When Nate was finished playing, I realized that tears were streaming down my face. I was so embarrassed. Dude, I'm sorry about that.
Not at all, Chris. You knocked it out of the park.
Well, I've heard of pre-employment drug tests. I've heard of the lie detector test, too, but that's a new one.
Stacy and I were sitting outside of Mojo's, a coffee house on the drag just north of campus. We went here often to get away from the straight-edge stiffs over at the Harvest Moon Co-op. She bummed another cigarette from my pack.
So it's just you and this neurologist guy, Dr. Kohl.
After the test, others started to stream in. I recounted their names and their titles. There was Hector, who was in system software, Bob in IT, whatever that was, Tara, the hot robotician, who looked like Lauryn Hill with ebony skin and tight dreads. She served as the Stubb Foundation's engineer. And then there was a lady named Barb, who was a theoretical physicist.
And Catherine Kohl got her PhD in math, right?
I nodded.
So then I take it they're not with the restaurant Stubbs?
No, there's some kind of .com.
Oh, right. The robot gladiator match.
Yeah, but they're not into robotics either. Stacy raised an eyebrow.
Okay, then what would you say they do there at the Stubb Foundation?
I shrugged. I don't know. Both of the Dr. Kohl said that their business model is complicated.
Yeah, it's a .com, all right.
Okay, so I didn't know what the Stubb Foundation's business model was. I don't think that they did either. I thought that was bizarre until I started running deliveries to the other .coms. There were deliveries to your standard businesses such as various law firms, state regulators, medical research labs, as well as parts of UT campus. But most of my deliveries were to these other .coms. There were startups like Paradigm and Synergetics. I'd study the posters in their lobby, hoping to get a clue as to what they did. But most just showed the same motivational poster of a gorilla brandishing a thigh bone over a horde of other gorillas with the message, "Contemporize." .coms wanted to stand out from the fray, and they wanted their employees to think outside the box. In pursuit of that, they did all sorts of weird shit. I once dropped in on Logo System while their employees were playing hide-and-go-seek. One time I went over to Aries 9 off of BK's Road and found that the entire IT department doing arts and crafts with construction paper and glue. The Stubb Foundation frequently sent me to eVisionate, whose mission statement was, disrupt expectations through non-linear delivery options. What? Whatever it was they were doing, they could afford a hot tub, so there was that. Most had hip indie music playing on the intercom, but Webinized one-upped everyone else by having their own full-time DJ in the lobby. Atreo Dynamics had their own on-site masseuse. One thing I learned in the first month of deliveries was not to bother trying to find anyone after 3 p.m. on Fridays, because every .com was hosting a weekly beer bash around that time. Along the way, I ran into other bike messengers, but they were kind of standoffish. I guess it was just another clique where I didn't belong. The other day I was in the elevator with another bike messenger, and while I tried to keep facing the floor display, I could tell the other guy was sizing me up.
That, Nextel they gave you?
He asked, referring to the cell phone attached to the strap on my messenger bag. Yep, that it is.
Well, looks like someone's special.
Thanks, I replied, because it really was something. I couldn't believe that the foundation provided me with a cell phone like I was a yuppie or something. Actually, it was both a cell phone and a two-way radio. A month ago, I hadn't ever even held a cell phone. And now I was on it all day with Dr. Kohl, asking me to pick up and drop off things.
I'm with Rand Corp. Who you with?
The Stubb Foundation.
The barbecue joint?
Nah, they're in R&D. R&D quickly became my go-to. I overheard that acronym and asked Catherine, so are y'all like in R&D? She pursed her lips.
Yeah, R&D sounds about right.
Ah, cool. And then I followed up with, R&D into what exactly? Catherine grimaced.
It's complicated. We're studying microtubules and their effects through audio-ontological resonance.
Oh, audio-ontological resonance, of course. You should have just said that in the first place. Back in the elevator, I turned to my fellow courier. So what about Rancor? He shrugged.
It's something to do with Y2K.
He got off at the next floor.
Smell you later, Stubbs.
I might not know what the study of microtubules and their effects of the audio-ontological resonance meant, but I really didn't care, to be honest. After months of working for a failing rent-a-car company where I was paid below minimum wage when you factored in the hours actually worked, the inconsistent schedules and the irate customers, the Stubb Foundation was like coming to the promised land. Regular business hours, weekends, they put money into something I'd never thought I'd have, a 401k, not to mention health insurance. And the people here were really nice. I felt like Ringo Starr. I was just happy to be here. The engineer, Tara, was often in the back working on that torpedo tube in the former kitchen, and she'd have me run over to get her lunch from Chewy's, and she'd often pay for my lunch as well. I didn't know if she was sweet on me. I certainly was for her. I mean, who wouldn't be? But come on, she was way out of my league. Hector and Bob were fixtures there, sitting in beanbag chairs, typing away on laptops that were propped up on trays, and on their breaks they would always be gaming. I'd come into work each morning before doing deliveries to find Hector, Bob, Barb, and Tara gaming on the consoles, and when I'd leave each evening, they were working on whatever it was they did around here. I didn't honestly know if they had homes to go to. I found myself one late afternoon trying to screw around on one of the laptops which were connected to the internet, but quickly got frustrated because it just didn't make any sense. The following morning, Tara came up to me and handed me a book, Microsoft Office for Morons.
You see, it's all pictures. It's so easy a caveman could do it.
I couldn't tell if she was feeling sorry for me or if this was some kind of signal. Really hoped it was the latter. Wow, Tara, thanks.
Actually, it was Hector and Bob's idea. I just bought it online on something called Amazon.
I turned to them and they did an aw shucks thing. I wanted to show Tara that I wasn't a caveman. So over the next several days, I read that Microsoft Office for Morons and clicked where it told me to. I even learned that I was supposed to save shit on something called an A drive, that thing that they called a floppy disk, but I didn't see how it was floppy. I was a regular hacker now. I walked in Friday morning feeling sore all over as yesterday had me riding up into the West Hills over to Tivoli, and afterwards I cycled over to Hyde Park to join Stacy for the young persons meeting at Sinai. Hector and Bob were nestled in their beanbag chairs as usual, playing Doom.
Hey, Chris. The Kohls wanted to speak with you in the back.
Okay. Shit. I hope I wasn't in trouble. I went to the back of the former kitchen where the torpedo tube was and found Catherine and Nate sitting by the mainframes. "Morning, Docs,"
Morning, Chris.
she said with a big smile. This was either good or...
Here, take a seat.
Oh, this was bad. And I was just beginning to feel like there was something to Mom's talk about divine order.
Oh, I got you an iced coffee. Tara told me Philipnautics is your favorite.
Thanks.
Nate and I want to discuss something with you.
Listen, Doc, I swear, the mileage charges are as accurate as I can make out, based on the perimeter map. I swear, I would never cheat.
Oh my God, Chris. You're not in trouble.
Not at all. In fact, the reason we've asked you here is that we believe you can benefit our foundation through other means.
I furrowed my brows. I was in the back, secluded from the rest of the crew with Catherine and Nate, and they were being all weird. I briefly considered the possibility that this was about to get all indecent proposal, which isn't too far of a stretch. I mean, I was looking pretty good these days. Other means?
Please, take a seat. As you know, we've been doing research on microtubules and audio-ontological resonant frequencies.
I nodded, pretending I understood.
And, well, you see, we believe the apparatus is ready to test.
Indicating over to the torpedo tube. Apparatus, huh?
Yeah, it's like a sensory deprivation tank, but adjusted to attenuate audio frequencies rather than block them. We'd like you to go into the apparatus, and we'd play some music you're currently into.
I see. How long would I be in there?
About an hour or so.
I bobbled my head, considering it.
And we'll pay you $1,000.
And with that, I became their guinea pig for their project. Something called Project McFlyvian.
Can you hear me, Chris?
I gave a thumbs up before realizing that I was in total darkness inside the apparatus. Yeah, Doc, 5 by 5. Before getting in, they had me put on a thin wetsuit and a Speedo cap attached to sensors. The saline solution was warm and it allowed me to float effortlessly.
We're going to start playing your mixtape. You'll barely be able to hear it at first. That's okay.
Catherine asked me to make a mixtape of music I was currently listening to. I was able to make use of Harvest Moon Co-op's CD collection to expand my repertoire. My favorite mix is the one I made for my night rides after work. Ready, Doc? It was hard to make out at first, but the bass line brought it together, and I felt like I was cycling downhill on Mopac. The next thing I knew, I woke up with the pod bay doors open. Sorry guys, I must have fallen asleep in there. Did I miss any instructions?
No, Chris, you did perfect.
Whatever audio ontological resonant frequency test they ran, everyone seemed to be pleased, very pleased. As they helped me out of the tank, I noticed something. The floors were wet, but I went in the tank dry.
I can't believe they're paying that much just to be in some sensory deprivation tank.
Stacy said with her mouth full. We were at Whataburger with a couple other AAs from the Sinai meeting. Having been handed $1,000 in cash, I felt it only right that I pay for dinner, as well as the cover to see this band called the Recliners. She was dumbfounded by my new gig.
And you said you fell asleep?
Yeah, something about floating in a warm bath in complete darkness. They put on my mixtape and I sort of conked out. And an hour later, bada bing, bada bang, $1,000 cash. Stacy lit a cigarette.
That sounds great, Chris. Just, I don't know, make sure they're not taking advantage of you. How's your bunghole feeling?
My bunghole feels fine, thanks for asking. And as for the grand, well, I guess I'm like Little Boy Blue.
Little Boy Blue, he needed the money. Ooh!
We always cracked ourselves up with the Andrew Dice Clay reference. Oh, and speaking of money, they want me to go back in at least once a month. Can you believe it? Over the next few months, I not only paid to tow value menus and have its engine completely refurbished. As part of the 9th step, I paid Mom back everything I had stolen from her over the years with interest. After work, I'd often fiddle on one of the laptops learning Microsoft Office. And suddenly it felt like pedestrian. Why did I make such a big deal about computers in the first place? So I started messing around with other applications. There was a database that used something called SQL. I found a reference book, and after briefly glancing at it, I somehow intuitively knew all the commands. Maybe it was just that I was finally around computers and they weren't so scary after all. That was the logical explanation, but I don't know. It almost felt like somehow I already knew this. This sounds crazy, but ever since I started going into the tank, it's like things that used to baffle me now are easy. Maybe there's something in the saline solution. Maybe it's something else. Hey, I'm getting paid and I'm getting smart. And I think Tara was checking me out the other day. Whether it's something to do with the tank sessions or whether it's just the promises of sobriety coming to fruition, for the first time, I felt like my future might not be a disaster. Crazy.
Stick around for episode 3 of the 6-part miniseries, Here We Are Now. Be sure to hit like and subscribe.
The role of Stacy was played by Tanya LaFleur. The following actors are available on Fiverr. Dr. Catherine Kohl by Janika D., Dr. Nate Kohl by Jordan W., the bike messenger Zeke, as well as the announcer by Robert C., Hector by Benjamin K., and Tara by Ebony LaShawn. Most of the background music has been provided by Mixkit and Thessalian Studios. In this episode, you also heard Not For You by Pearl Jam, Love Song by The Cure, If You Leave Me Now by Chicago, Battle Flag by Low Fidelity All Stars, In the Meantime by Space Hog, and Fly by Sugar Ray.